Hello. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, so I think I'll have to start over. Very sorry for the technical glitch we had. So my name is Pius. I'm a software developer and AI enthusiast. And so I'm going to talk about backend development basically, and then artificial intelligence as well. First of all, let's look at backend development. What is backend development? Many a times you go to a website or let's say an application, and then you're able to log in, sign up. Next time you come, you're able to log in, and then your records are still there. You're able to access some functionality. For example, Facebook, you're able to upload your image, post whatever you want to post. Your friends are able to like and comment and all that. How does that happen? Once you click that like button, there is something going on behind the scenes that you cannot see. So basically, the front end just covers the visual part, what you can see. But then the back end has to do with the behind the scenes functionality, the things that you cannot see, but then it's happening behind the scenes. So the back end actually connects the front end to sometimes a database which manages the user connections and powers the application itself. And so the backend is actually the logic, how to handle the logic behind. So if I click on a particular person, what happens behind the scenes? That is what backend is about. So backend is what you cannot see, as opposed to the front end, which is how you see the screen and interact with it. So basically, we can say that the backend is the intangible driving force of an application. All right, let's proceed to the next slide. So backend actually encompasses three things. That is the servers, the applications, databases, and then third-party services. So with backend development, we combine these three things to provide the core functionality of an app. So let's say I want an app that calculates GPA. How do I calculate GPA? The mathematics that goes into calculating a GPA, I take it as a backend developer and then code it into the computer. That's what backend does. So depending on the application logic, the backend developer will translate the application logic into code. And then the front end will just be an interface. So mostly what happens is that once you click a button, it sends some actions to the backend, and based on that, the backend does some processes and then returns some output back to you. So let's look into the various parts. I talked about server, application, and then the database. So when we talk about the server, most people see a server to be a physical device. Yes, it is a physical device, but there's a software running on the physical device. And what that software does is that it serves requests. So you send a request to the server based on the logic that the backend developer has written. So you host your backend application on the server. So the user sends a request to the server, and then the server receives the request, does some processes, and then returns a response based on the application logic, based on what you want our application to do. So most times you hear people saying calling the backend the server side, and then the front end is the client side. Okay. So then we have applications. Sometimes you have to make calls to other applications, what we call API calls. So for example, let's say I'm building an application that has to connect to maybe mobile money services. I make a call to MTN's services and then they give me some feedback, and based on that feedback, I'm able to do some processes. I hope I'm not going too fast. And please tell me if I'm running too fast. Okay. And then we have a database. What the database actually does is that it holds some data. So right now, if you are on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, your data is sitting in some database somewhere. Your information is sitting there. That is why when you log in, you are able to get your pictures and other stuff back. So let me take us through a simple use case. Okay. So for example, I create an account on Facebook. I create an account on Facebook, and then when I create an account on Facebook, what happens? I enter my name and my password, into a form. What happens is that when I click the sign up button, my details, what I type into the input box, is sent to the backend. The backend receives it, processes it, and then your password is hashed and then it's stored in a database somewhere. So next time when you come and you want to log in, you enter your username, your password. What happens is that we go into the database with the backend, go into the database, go and check the database. Is this the person's name in a database? If yes, then you check, is the password matching the username? If yes, then we proceed. So that's how the backend works. It's just a series of logics. Yeah, that's what I'll put it. That is happening. So the backend developer works with connecting all these things together to give us the logic of the application. Okay, so now look at how do we Okay, so those of you with questions, please we'll answer them as when we are getting to the end. We'll have a time for Q&A, so don't worry. Your questions will get answered. Sorry. Okay, I think Justice is trying to help me here. Thank you, Justice. Okay, so we are looking at backend languages. First of all, I think those of us who were in the WhatsApp group with us, we talked about what programming languages. Okay, and then frameworks. Frameworks are actually written in a particular programming language, but then they give us some of the code has already been written for us. Some of the functionalities have already been written for us, so we don't have to start from scratch to code everything. The framework has some of the core logic written for us, so that we just leverage on it to build our application. So using a framework actually speeds up your development. And then the framework sometimes have a structure. They have some particular design pattern that we follow. Maybe as time goes on, we'll talk about some of those things. So, for example, if you're using Laravel, it's built on PHP, and then it has the MVC framework that you can use. That makes your writing applications simpler. So some of the frameworks actually have other stuff integrated. So with Laravel, you have the Blade templating engine that will help you with your front end. Sometimes I think Laravel now actually has Vue.js as well, so you can also integrate Vue and then go your way. So with the languages that you can use for backend development, I just listed a few of them. So you can use Java. We have Java framework called Java Spring that you can use. We also have JavaScript itself. So don't confuse. Java is not the same thing as JavaScript. Okay. Then we have PHP, we have Python. SQL is actually structured query language. SQL is used for querying databases. Okay, and then we have Ruby, we have C Sharp, we have Swift, and there are other languages. You can read more on that. I think I'll share some links when we are done. Okay, and then we talk about some of the frameworks. We have Laravel. Express is a framework for JavaScript. We have .NET. We have Flask. Flask is actually a framework for Python. We have Django. Django is also written in Python. Ruby on Rails for Ruby. And then we have Vertex, a whole lot of them. Yeah, I think you choose the one you want and then you work with them. Alright, so we've spoken about some of the frameworks that you can use. But mind you, you don't have to be a jack of all trades. Find the one that works best for you and then you stick to it. So for example, I've worked with Laravel, I've worked with Express, Flask, Django. Yes, I think those are the ones I've worked with. But don't rush from the beginning, otherwise you get confused. Okay, so I like to be practical. Now, someone may be asking, how do I become a back-end developer? And mind you, back-end developers actually are the ones handling the core logic application. So when you check the statistics, they are a little more paid than the front-end guys. Yes, because sometimes some of their work is a little more tedious here. So how do I get started being a back-end developer? But the first thing is to learn a programming language. But then at least, being a backend developer, you should have your hands with some basic HTML, some basic CSS, at least some basic stuff for the front end. You have to know them. So you have to, first of all, pick a particular language. So let's assume you want to learn Python or you want to use something like Flask. So you start with Python, which I actually recommend because Python is relatively easier to learn. And then JavaScript, okay, I don't have to bring my personal biases in here. I work with Python a lot for work. I mean, where I work, I use Python. But then for my personal projects, I'm purely JavaScript. Okay, so let me not bring my personal biases. You choose the ones that you want and then you work with it. So you pick a particular language. And then the most important thing is the fundamentals. So make sure you get the fundamentals of the language. You can't jump to Flask if you don't have knowledge in Python. You can't do Express if you don't know JavaScript. So I always stress that there is this saying that if the fundamentals are weak, the numbers will expose you. So always try and get the fundamentals of the particular language. Okay, but then every language also has its strengths. So it's better you read around what you want to do and then you choose a language that works for you. For example, if you are doing machine learning and those stuff, Python works better as compared to JavaScript and the rest. So you have to know which one works best for you and then you go with it. But then also when you are learning a language, you have to make sure that the language you are learning is actually going to be relevant for the next, let's say, 5 years, 10 years. Because there are some languages that are reigning now, but then the next 5 or 6 years, they won't be because they are actually falling. So you can read the Stack Overflow developer survey and you get to know which languages are actually on the trend and which ones will be better if you learn, and which ones are also beginner friendly. Okay. Now, like I said, you have to start with the basics. And so you have to at least know some fundamental computer science concepts, something like loops, some little data structures. You have to understand what lists are, stacks, and those things. They will help you with your programming. Yeah, so you have to know some basic flow control, if statements, and stuff. So you have to make sure you understand those ones because when you are dealing with back-end development, there are 3 things you can't run away from. That is sequence, selection, and then loops, which are iterations. Because sometimes you have to go over some data a number of times. And then when we're talking about selection, you have to make some decisions. So that's when the if, else, and those stuff come in. And then sequence, maybe from A, I go to B. So you have to understand those basic stuff. Data structures, you have lists, arrays, and collections, you have to understand those things. Or some those from Python know it as dictionaries. You have to understand those basic concepts. So ideally, I think you should take this course if you are not a computer science student and you still want to do these things. There is this course on EDX, and it's called CS50, Harvard University Introduction to Computer Science. Take CS50, you are good to go. Okay, and then how do you get started? You can also take online courses. I am a boss when it comes to taking online courses. Taking courses on Coursera, Udacity, Udemy, edX, Free Code Camp, Codecademy, Pluralsight, W3 Schools. And we have some amazing YouTube channels that you can use to learn code. For example, there's this channel, Brad Traversy, or you look for Traversy Media on YouTube. He has awesome tutorials. I think we will compile some of those channels for you. You go to Udemy. Okay, some of the Udemy courses are paid. You can get courses as low as $9.99. Sometimes we have our ways around of getting them for free. When you go to EDX like this, EDX.com, you get a lot of courses on EDX for free. We have Coursera. You go to Coursera, all the courses there are free. You only pay when you want the certificate. So you can go to those websites and then learn. They are free, so utilize them. Those of you who are in the University of Ghana, I think it ended in September. You could take any Coursera course for free with the University of Ghana in Europe. I think now it has expired. So yeah. You can use freecodecamp.com, freecodecamp.org. They actually have a very nice curriculum that takes you from basics to pro. people have actually taken those courses like on free code camp who have followed it, who have followed the course on free code camp and are working at Amazon and the rest. Their course is actually 2,000 hours. So if you can learn 2,000 hours, you will sail through from beginner to expert. You can go to codecademy.com, you get to practice your coding there. And then one website that I actually used from the beginning, that was 5 years ago when I was learning coding, was W3 Schools. So go to w3schools.com. You can start from HTML, CSS. That's for those who want to do front end and JavaScript. If you want to do back end, you can probably start with JavaScript, PHP, or Python. I don't want to bring my biases there, so you do some research. Which one works for you? And then you start learning. There are actually some very nice YouTube channels that you can. With a particular UI, okay, it just brings you the data, and then you do whatever you want to do with the data. Okay, so I think that is it. Any other questions? Yes, exactly. So the back end is more like the support or the skeleton, and then the front end is the makeup that will make it very nice. So the core functionality is at the back end, and the front end is interfacing it. So the front end is what you can actually see, but the work that is being done behind the scenes is the work of the back end. That's where the whole logic happens. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so with IDs for now, you don't need a special ID for front end and back end. If you have something like VS Code, you can do both front end and back end. Just that you have to make sure that the language you are going to work with is supported in the IDE. So if I'm going to do PHP for my backend, I have to make sure that I have PHP installed on my machine. If I'm going to do Python, I have to make sure that I have Python running on my machine. Once I have those working, I mean, we are good to go. But some particular languages have particular IDs that they work with. But then, so you can, so for with Python, you can use something like PyCharm. PyCharm does a very nice job. But me personally, I use VS Code. And all I have to do is I use VS Code for almost everything. I just integrate the language plugins for VS Code, and then I'm good to go. So I do my JavaScript, my Python, whatever, using VS Code. But you can feel free to use whatever you want, whichever works for you. You are good to go. All right, so yeah, it's a matter of choice. You choose which way you want to stick, whether front end or back end. But as time goes on, if you think you also want to venture into the back end, you can, of course, you can become a full stack developer. So that, yeah, once you're a full stack developer, you get a gig. You can work on it from beginning to the end. So I think that is all. Yeah, good to go. Any other questions? I can end it here. I was expecting questions with regards to AI because I think I rushed through that, but I'm not getting any questions there. Yeah. Those of you want to do AI, and then those of who are in the University of Ghana and want to do AI, there's an AI club on campus, the computer science department. So you can ask Justice about it, and then you can join. I think it's every Friday. I don't know how it's going to run from next semester. But I also do AI, and Solomon does AI. So if you're interested in AI, you can also talk to us, and then we'll know how best we can build a community around that. If there are no other questions, I think I'll call it a day. And thank you for your audience. Yeah, so hit that set up if you want to join the AI group. All right, guys. Thank you very much. See you some other time.
Okay, thank you very much,
Mr.
Mr.
Pius
Pius
Gabna.
Gabna.
It's been
It's been
a
a
wonderful
wonderful
time with
time
you
with you
on
on
this
this
network.
network.
So at
So
this
at this
juncture, I
juncture, I
believe
believe
we
we
have
have
a
a
variety of
variety
people
of
on this
people on this
platform.
platform.
We
We
have
have
secondary school
secondary school
students, we
students,
have
we have
tertiary
tertiary
students, we
students, we
have
have
workers,
workers,
we
we
have
have We have a lot of different people on the platform, and we have a lot of people representing different universities as well, and secondary schools. We don't want to go into that now. Yes, but then at this time, we also have females. We have ladies on the platform as well, and most of us can attest to the fact that when it comes to STEM, that is the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, there are few ladies who actually venture into this field. So today we have with us one lady. She's called Miss Esther Ajaribotson from the UK, and she's going to talk to us about the need for ladies to learn how to code. Why ladies should learn how to code. There's not only the ladies on the platform. Please, if you're a guy, pay attention. And then if you have a girlfriend, tell them. If you have sisters, let them know. If you have a mom that can teach how to code, that's fine. So I'll invite Miss Esther Ajaribotson to take over from here. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Just let me know if you can hear me or you can't hear me. So as Pong has said, I'll be talking about the need for ladies to know how to code. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Esther, and I've been coding for about a year now. And I'm mainly specializing in front end development, so HTML, CSS, JavaScript, as well as React. So the need for ladies to know how to code, as mentioned before, is very good for your CV. It's a skill that every company wants in terms of building a website, um, just a skill because a lot of companies are now moving onto the internet, moving more into the technology side. Um, Sometime last year, beginning of last year, I was working for a quantity surveying company. And what one of my managers said was that they no longer hire quantity surveyors. Everything is moving online technology. How we would do building quantity surveying, how we would measure up an apartment. Everything is online based. And so there is a demand for developers. In particular, a lot of companies are trying to hire more female developers. What I've noticed throughout my journey is that it's mainly very male dominated. And so a lot of companies are kind of targeting their hiring process towards the female aspect. Um, and so even right now, the current climate, everything is remote. Here in the UK, a lot of the companies are working from home, so everything is online. No one's going into the offices anymore, so everything is remote working. And so right now is like the perfect time for females to venture in coding. Um, how to start. As mentioned before, there's a lot of resources online. So the free codes, camps, YouTube tutorials, a lot of cheap courses online that you could get. Um, Advice, I would say practice. When I first started, I would be practicing maybe 3, 4 hours a day, every single day. Um, During the weekends as well, I would be practicing. Also, it's important to kind of put what you're learning into your own project. So you can build a basic landing page, which is like it could be a home page or a basic portfolio website for yourself. It's important that whatever you're learning or whatever you're studying online, you should be able to practice. Don't try to learn everything at once. So start with the basics, so the HTML and CSS, and then once you kind of mastered those two, then you can choose which path you would want to go into. So for me, when I mastered the HTML CSS, I ventured into JavaScript, and then React. I kind of combined the JavaScript and React together. I'm a person that I like to learn a lot and take a lot of information. So um, yeah, so start with the basics, the HTML and CSS. If you're looking into the front end development aspects, the back end, I'm not entirely sure. I've only kind of touched a bit on the Ruby, but not as much because I prefer the front end development. Um, Networking. I feel like networking with other people is very, very important, especially the ladies. Right now, we are having a lot of groups online that come together, that do lots of online webinar. A lot of females are putting together workshops, online courses as well, just specifically for females. There's a group chat that I would put into the messages that's called Coding Black Females, and in this group they post job hiring, they post how to succeed in interviews, the technical aspects of interviews, and what employers are looking for in terms of your application, your CV, how you would approach certain questions they may ask, um, and ask for help. There's no, like mentioned before, there's no shame in asking for help. um, Me, I'm a very proud person, so asking for help is sometimes like a no for me. But it's important to ask for help, ask ask questions. If you don't understand something, don't wait like maybe 2 or 3 days before you get some help. Ask help like maybe within the 2 hours you're stuck. Ask how they did it. Ask questions. Um, what else? Just ask questions. Really, it's important that when we're learning something, we we can also learn from others and their approach in how they do things, because if we're stuck in our own ways we'll never be able to grow. So coding is an exciting journey, and particularly for females, where a lot of companies are now hiring more females. So yeah, it's just, yeah, I feel like that's really what I can touch on so far. I've only been in this journey for a year, but yeah, just work hard, um, and yeah, that's all I have to say. If anyone has any questions for me.
Any questions? If anybody has a question, you can unmute yourself and ask Miss Esther. Any questions, please? Those on YouTube, any questions? If you are streaming from YouTube, do you have any questions, please? We are still waiting on questions, please. If you're on YouTube and you have a question, you can type it in the comment section. It will be read out to there.
No questions.
Okay, so I think there are no questions on YouTube and there is no question on Google Meet as well.
Okay then. That's
Okay,
fine. I will drop in my details for anyone that wants to email me, or if they think of any questions afterwards, I'll be happy to answer them.
sure, sure. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome.
And thank you very much for sharing with us your experience and what it takes to be a developer, and for especially for a female to be a developer in this space, in the technology space. So we would like to move on from here. I think now we've gotten to know the tools you can use, the various sectors you can go into, such as the front end or the back end, or you can even become a full stack, whereby you do both front end and back end at the same time. But what habits do you need? I mean, what are some of the things that you should do? Some tools or platforms that can help you to build upon your skills. And for that, talk about we are going to talk about some of the essential coding habits and learning platforms that are available for you. And for this particular session, we will call on Mr. Mouse Odazi. Mr. Mouse Odazi is coming all the way from Nigeria, and he is a React JS full stack developer. So over to you, Mr. Mouse.
Hello guys.
Hello.
Yeah, hello guys. I want to know
Hello.
if you can hear me. Yeah.
Yes, it's clear.
Alright, that's it. My introduction has already been done by Pinpoint, so there's no point about programming for the past. For a beginner, it can be overwhelming. All the information is injected in 45 minutes, and I don't want you to put yourself into that situation that, oh my God, this is not something that anybody can do, or something that is kind of difficult to process. Okay, so I want to tell you guys something. If programming was everybody's thing, everybody would be doing it. That's one. And if it is that easy, everybody would be doing it. What keeps a programmer on check is the desire to solve problems. That's what keeps a programmer on check. If you know that you're on the verge of solving a problem with code, keeps you on your toes to keep coding and with some habits you kind of adopt and some things you have to do to help you handle those kind of things easily. Okay, so I have to present a screen for you guys now, and think let me just get it done. Uh, I don't know. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, please.
All right, all right. So welcome everybody for coming to this webinar. It's coming here means you want to step forward in programming. You want to know what it's really all about and what it is. Okay, so I'll just take you out through some habits you need to go through and follow some steps you need to take that won't make it really that overwhelming for you if you just follow the process. So firstly, I'll um I'll start with the best coding habits and how to develop them. It's just a simple slide. I want to know if you're seeing slides, please. If I send the slide, please indicate before I continue. I want to make sure. Please, are you guys seeing the slide? I want to make sure, please.
Yeah, I can see the slide. I don't believe it. I don't believe
All right, all right, all right. Okay, okay. So now all right, the first habit is planning. Planning before code. Planning before code. This is very, very important because as a beginner, you don't need to be all over the place in coding. Coding is something that if you are not an organized person, you will find it difficult achieving a lot in code. So at first, you need to be organized. So that's why I put it as the first one. You plan. Like you're a beginner, you know nothing about coding. What's my first step? What am I to do? You know. So for the planning before code, it's just like, let me give an example. You you guys in Ghana, you have your language, okay? And in Nigeria here, we have our own language. So we have a general language, English language that we all communicate together. But if you really want to know some languages in Nigeria that are not English, you need to learn it. And the first step is, if you find yourself, the first thing you will do is, what is this? What, like for example, you say, if I want to say cup, what is cup in this language? You're just trying to pick it around and know what this is, the basic thing of the language. It's the same application in programming. That is why some of my colleagues earlier, like I think Fayos mentioned that about the basics. It's very important. You don't dive into coding and expect to get it back. No, you just go to the basics first. So that I think overwhelm you. Whatever you're supposed to see. And now transition into other things that can make you a better programmer. So that is where this planning before coding falls. Draft out a plan, what you want to learn, how you want to learn it, and the best way to learn it that will be easy for you. Most people, like me, when I'm learning, um, I'm a little of both, a reader and a visual person. I'm a kind of person that once I see something once, I get it. So everybody will not be like that. Some people need to read, some people need to take more time, study, and apply and know how it goes before they learn how to do it. The process. Okay. So the second one is focus on one language at a time. One language at a time. This is very important. Like you've heard today about different programming languages, different frameworks, different things. Okay. And at the beginner, you have this hunger that wow, done. You want to just have a feel about everything. It's not wrong to have a feel about anything, but once you start going about everything at the same time, like being scattered, not organized, it's not good for a beginner because you won't know where your interest lies and you will just be all over the place, basically all over the place. So it's good to focus on one programming language. And how do you pick the programming language of choice? Before you decided that I want to learn code, there is something you have in mind that I wish I can do this thing. No matter what it is, it's doable. Maybe, wow, I love this website. I wish I can do something like this. You know? So in that case scenario, what you do is you just do a simple Google search. What are the tools to learn how to? develop a website and you see something pop up, you say, okay, for me to learn this thing I really like, I need this tool, I need that tool. Okay, it guides you to the kind of programming language you want to start with, not being all over the place. Okay, so that's what this focus on one language at a time is talking about. Now, another thing is this experimentation. I think I practice new methods, know how they work by reading documentation. Okay, so what I mean by that experimentation is, or eventually you just want to put something on the page, like you want to write your first HTML line of code. Okay, and you just put something up, but getting confused at the very beginning. What you need to do is just do a simple search. How can I do this in HTML? You see some examples and try to mimic what they do. Do it on yours. Try to tweak it and see that you can change this. This is how this works. Wow, okay. You see, it starts thinking in automatically. You start recognizing the pattern of, okay, anytime I want to write a code in HTML, this is how I go about it. This is how it's done. Okay, so once you try methods, try this, try that, in that particular thing you want to learn, you will have a great and perfect understanding of how that thing works. Secondly, if you are the person that doesn't just want to do coding for fun, but most people just want to do it for fun. If you really want to do it and get something out of it, you need to have this habit of studying documentation. It's very important. Like if you want to code with JavaScript, put a little bit of functionality in your code, and you think about, like, you want to do a sign up page. The user has to put in some details to log in. Okay, how will I go about that?
Miles.
Yeah.
Yeah, not to cut you. I think we are receiving feedback from YouTube that your voice is down. So if you can raise it a little.
Okay. 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 I'll do
Thank you.
that. All right. All right. So if my voice is audible, you can tell me please. Let me see. All right. So as I was saying, you go to the site, Google it, and go to JavaScript. I think Pius gave the link to JavaScript website, and you just Google the thing you want to do. For example, that sign up page. Okay, how you can do it, how it is done. So you read the documentation on how JavaScript requires it to be done, and you just get the feel of it and apply it to your own personal project, and it works. So if you can have that habit of doing that time and time again, it's a process. You'll become better. Initially, it gets tiring. Sometimes it's frustrating, but with time, you put in the time, the interest, you see that at some point, you just be like, breathe, you know, you just get it, you know how it's done. So the next one is learn to debug code. This is the scary part. Okay, I don't need to scare you guys, but this every programmer's scary part. Okay, you can be writing the code now, everything is working very perfectly, and you just implement something. Automatically, that thing you implement crashes the code. Everything begins to fall apart. You begin to say what's happening, and all that. So if you have that skill of going into the code, knowing where the problem is, and fixing it, that's a very serious skill. A very serious skill a programmer can have. And very I would say about the tools you can use for your debugging and all that. But once you have that skill of doing documentation, you can start doing
Hello, Miles. Okay, so I think unfortunately we are having a little bit of a problem with mouse line. So we'll proceed. When he's back, then he takes off from where he left off. Okay, so at this juncture, we are going into the last part of our program. That's the latter part of the program. Okay, I think Mouse is back.
Yeah,
So
that was the
yes,
network.
we'll hand over to
About that. I'm so sorry about that. It was a network.
no problem.
Yeah. So I think I can just you can stop presenting so that I can talk. Oh, are we good now?
Yes, please.
All right. All right. So sorry about that. It was a little network glitch. Okay. So as I was talking about the learn how to debug code. So you just if you're a beginner and you start with that skill, you know, being patient and knowing how to debug code, no matter how small, okay, you will enjoy it in the long run because you will not be a beginner forever. As you're writing code, you improve yourself. You see yourself growing. Okay, you see yourself going from one step to another, and you you get you get bigger bugs. Like for adventure, you try to design something. Maybe you become a freelancer in the future, which I pray for you guys. Okay, so that you can start getting income from coding. It's a very good thing. There are some bugs that can keep you on your toes for 2 weeks. Like I've experienced that countless times. And you need this patience to keep looking at it, going online, checking for ways to solve the problem, and finally get it done. Once you develop that skill is priceless because in the process of when you get your error and trying to debug it to the time you solve it, you're going to learn so many things in between. I tell you for real. So that's about that. Now the next one is platforms and tools that can help one build upon their skills. This is very important as a beginner. Okay. First, though I didn't take it that serious at the point, I went into YouTube. YouTube is um YouTube is a place that something like YouTube that can take us from point of zero knowledge to the point of expert knowledge. Okay. I'm a self-taught developer. I didn't learn it from anywhere. I learned it online. Okay. So YouTube is a place that you grab resources that can help you. Just a simple YouTube search. How to work on HTML as a beginner. You'll see so many things on it. It just depends on you to pick the one that you choose and follow it. That's how you learn. Okay? But I'll touch on the YouTube again and tell you some disadvantages of it. Okay? The next one is Google. Some people are good in reading. When they read something, they get it. They're not the visual type. Okay? Some people are like that. Everybody has his own pattern of learning. So depends on your own pattern of learning, you know how to go about your learning code because you can't do what another person is doing. It doesn't work like that. You need to learn code the way you are comfortable learning code so that you will get the most of it. That's why I included Google here. Just a simple Google search. How does this work? Now, the third one, which I recommend very well, is the free code stamp, especially for those going in for web development, web app development. The free code stamp is very good. There are so many others that are very awesome, but free code stamp, I just have this preference for free code stamp. I'm not imposing it on anybody, but there are so many others that are out there that are perfect. Okay, but free code stamp, it takes you from a beginner, like zero knowledge, it is usually followed zero knowledge to, I won't say an expert knowledge per se, but to an intermediate level of coding. So you will know how things work step by step with Freecodecamp. They will give you tasks to carry out. They will tell you why this is doing this and why this is doing that. So it's very, very good. Okay, that's why I included it. But you can also Google some other platforms that give awesome resources as beginners. The next one I have here is GitHub. GitHub is, let me put it like this. GitHub is a house where you keep your code, like you store it there. Why Git is where you track your code. I don't want to go into code. There's some code people keep public. There's some code people keep private. So you can make do with the public one. Just a simple search of code in GitHub. You look at how people write their code. You see the pattern of how they write their code. You look into it and understand how it goes. You can even download the code and put it on your local system. Okay? Just look at it, understand it. All these things you're doing, I've mentioned generally, you're trying to run around as a beginner to know how to narrow your path to this actually I want to go. So these things will help you guide you to narrow your path and say that okay, this is it. And something else I didn't mention here is if you have someone or a group of people or in your school that you come together, you guys have interest in code, humble yourself and ask them some questions. How to do this, how to do that. That one-on-one interaction is priceless. Okay, and I tell you the truth, it's priceless. So anyone can just ask questions and you'll be directed firsthand. It's very important. So that's about that. Now, something I added for this, what you guys will take home as general habits and the platform. Let me put it out there. Let me put it out there. I was in this situation when I was starting code. I saw it as something that was damn difficult. I can't do this. It's a different language altogether. When you look at the code, you see different syntax, different things. You will be seeing a lot of things. But at some point, when I got really interested in it, I had no choice than to put my head down. And when I started going into it one after the other, I now discovered that this is not as complex as it seems to look like. Okay, so all you guys do just have a humble mindset, a teachable mindset, a learnable mindset. That's the only way you can progress in coding. You will meet points where you want to drop it off, like forget about this, this is not working. But that staying power you have to keep going, asking questions, going online to search, and all that will really help you break that point of a beginner. Once you break that point, man, you fly. You see code in your head already. You've already designed it and know what to do about it. That's when you break that beginner point. It's, it's a point where if you break, man, you will love it. Okay. So now let's go. I said To take home, you have to learn the basic language or the area of programming you want to go into. Then think of a simple project to work on. This brings me back to when I said I'm going to tell you the disadvantages of YouTube. Now, YouTube is very good, yes, but if you use it in the right way, you can go on YouTube, see a tutorial, you follow the tutorial, do everything, it works perfectly for you. What you just did is just follow somebody's pattern of coding and wrote out the same thing and it works for you. It's not actually your code. Okay? So where YouTube gets bad is when you stick to it and you all okay. So where you get the most of YouTube is when you get these tutorials, you watch them, you learn them, you get the knowledge you have from it and apply it and build something for yourself. No matter how simple, just get it working, get it done. You'll see that once you do that from time to time, once you get better, you start thinking of bigger projects to do. You now start challenging yourself, doing bigger stuff. Before you know it, you're becoming better and better and better and better. That is what it is. So just learn the basics of the area you want to work on, go into it and try to build something with that knowledge that you've gotten from all these Google search, YouTube tutorials, and all of that. Try to narrow it down and use the knowledge you've gotten to actually build something custom for yourself. When you do that and get it working, there's a kind of feeling you have that, man, I'm getting somewhere. That is it. So, as I mentioned earlier, second one, I said, learn the skill of debugging, reading documentation to know how snippets of code are implemented. Okay? The reason for this snippet of code here is, let me give you an example with myself. I've learned code to the extent that once I see a code, once I see an application, I see a software, I see somebody's code, and I look at it in some way, I know what the person is doing. Okay? So in my own project I'm working on personally, I want to apply something to my project to work in some way, and I just go online, do a simple search, and maybe where I get the solution is on GitHub, Stack Overflow, or any of it. I see the person's snippet of code, and it's what I want to do, but the person did it in his own form. Now, with the skills I've already known about coding, I can just pick that snippet of code and reform it to what I want it to do on my own. I didn't actually write any code, but I just know the pattern. I know the concept. I know what it does. So I just took the snippet of code and put it in my own, reform it to what I want it to do, and I moved. Every programmer does this. No programmer just comes up and says, maybe he has not gone to do a Google search before, he has not been stuck before, and all that. No, we all do it. Don't see it as something that is a beginner something. We all do it. Okay. So most of the API calls we do, those are pre-written code somewhere. It's just to pick it, call it up on your own project. So it's not everything that. But the point is understand how everything works. You know that once you put this here, this is what it's going to do. Once you put that there, this is what it's going to do. Once you have that concept, you can start off your project, pick things from online, pick so many things, and put it together. Because you know what everything is doing. There's no point killing yourself to start writing code from afresh. You just reform it and it works. Okay, it's a very good skill. That's why the burden of reading documentation and know how to use snippet of code and implement it in yours. Okay, so that's about
Hello?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have a minute more to go.
All right. All right. All right. I'm wrapping up already. So the next one is when using tutorials on YouTube and any other platform, try to go for project-based tutorials. As you learn, use this knowledge gotten and apply it when working on your project. I've already explained that before when I was talking about the advantage and disadvantage of YouTube. So, and I said, learning code is not an easy journey. I've said that before, but consistency in totality will get you comfortable with code, and it becomes easy because you have understood the concept of how it flows. Okay, so that's about it. It's not too much talk. Just start with a beginner mindset and progress as it goes. I think that's all I need to say about this whole thing on this chapter. I just wish you guys the best and just have a teachable heart, have a learnable heart, and you'll fly in coding. It's a beautiful thing, okay? When you can create something on your own to come alive, it's something beautiful. So I think I can take few questions now if there's any, and that will be it. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much.
Please, a minute or two for questions for Mr. Mouse Odazi. A minute or two for questions. So kindly unmute yourself if you have a question to ask. If you're on YouTube and you're watching and have a question, you can type it in the comment section. We'll read it out for you.
I think they may not have any questions.
Hello.
All right. Yeah. Hello. Yeah.
Yeah. So mine is not actually let's say it's a general question though.
All right. Go
You
ahead.
see, you from the start of the program we've been through front end, back end, and a whole lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, would it be possible
Yeah.
to integrate to have two languages at the start, let's say Python and PHP for a back end? Maybe you want to build a face detection app. You would like to have Python for the because Python they have cool libraries for face recognitions and then a whole lot,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
TensorFlow for making and creating model and a whole lot. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I wanted to know if it's possible to add these two in a backend.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, once you're integrating, once you have an app and you want to integrate a functionality to it, anything functionality you're trying to integrate to an app is the back end because it's not what you see that makes up an application. What you see is the front side. Okay. Anything that makes you take action, like do something, something processes that in behind and brings it to the front. So this thing you said about including maybe a facial recognition something, you have to work on it on the back end and bring it to the front end. I think I don't know if I'm making sense to you, okay? But I think one programming language that does that beautifully is Python. The facial recognition something is Python. They are very good. So I think maybe just have in your free time, just do a simple Google search and see what people are saying about it online and how it actually works. Okay, if you really want to do that and know the flow before going deep. Okay, if not, you get stuck. But that's a very good question, and I know that question helps a lot of people as well. Okay, so that's about it. Any other thing, I'll drop some of my details, my mail, so that maybe any further questions you have after now, you can just push it there when I see the answer when I can. So would there be any other question?
Okay, so I think there are no more questions from coming from YouTube, and neither are there any here. Um, okay, so we'd like to thank you very much, Miles Odazi, for making time out of your busy schedule to be with us and share with us some insights. We believe it has been helpful, and we will apply them as novices and beginners so that we can also shoot out very fast and land our dream jobs or begin our dream projects so that we can make some small coins. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for your time.
yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you, Yellow Team, and all of you guys. Thank you. I
Great,
really appreciate
great.
it. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think at this point, we should be jubilating. Let me say that we should be jubilating because we are moving on to the final part of the whole show, where we are actually going to do something. We are going to build an application, a simple web application, which is a sign up form, and then we'll post it on Firebase, and then we'll share the link with you on WhatsApp so that you try it out. So you realize that we have actually built something from beginning to the end. So let me present my screen so that we can begin the process right away. So finally, we are here. Let us build something already with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then host on Firebase. So first of all, if you've been with us on our WhatsApp platform for the past week, you realize that we actually created a file, an index.html file using Visual Studio Code. So this is no different from what we've done already. So this is just, we are just in Visual Studio Code right now, and then we have an index.html file ready. So once we've created our file, then we can go ahead to write our first template. So if you guys can remember, we wrote something similar like this. We had a doc type HTML, which is basically telling the browser that this is an HTML file. We have the head which has some meta characters. We have name is equal to viewport. Now this viewport name is equal to viewport, content is equal to weight because device weight, initial scale is equal to 1.0, allows you to it's for your view on your phone or any screen of be it a tablet or a phone or your PC. Just adjust the window of your application, the size of the application to the window of your screen. And then we have the title, which is called document. So if you put your cursor on the work, our project, the title that you see over there is document. And then we have our first inscription, which is the yellow code webinar, and it is in an H1 tag. Now, first of all, you should know that in HTML we deal mostly with tags and attributes. So tags are the things that are in brackets, greater than and less than signs with some backslash, which is the forward slash. And then we have attributes. Attributes are what are written in the greater than and less than signs alongside the tags. So this is just a template. Yes, this is a template. And then we have our yellow code webinar in it. Now let's do some real work. At this point, we are going to add another element, and that element is the form element. So this is form. It starts from form from here, a less than sign. We have form, and this is an attribute. So class is equal to form, ID is equal to sign up form. Now we are giving it a class because we are going to use this when we are styling. So as we said earlier, we are working with HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and Firebase. So when we are going into our index.css file, we are going to use this form, this class form over here. It's going to be really useful. Now in our form, we have a label, and that label is entitled name. So if you look on your right here, you can see that we have name here. That's a label. When you look on your below the label or beneath the label, we have an input field. And an attribute is that it is a type of text. It's a text type. And we have something called placeholder. So in the placeholder, we have written enter your name. So when you look on the form, you realize that the input field over here has some text written in it, and it says enter your name. We have another label, which is an email label, and we have another input type, which is an email, and we have a placeholder which says you should enter your email. So the placeholder is simply giving us some text to put in the input field to show the user what they should do over there. So input field is basically where you type. So for instance, when you want to log into your Gmail account, you have to type your username and then you have to type your password. That's what the input field does. And then we have a button. And when we want to log in, you click on a button, login, right? Yes, so we have a button over here. The type is submit. The class is form button. As I said, we give it a class because we'll be using it in our CSS file and then a JavaScript file. And we'll give it an ID as well. We'll also be using the ID in a JavaScript file as well. So the name in the button is submit. We can write anything we want, maybe login, sign out, anything we want. You can write anything here where the submit is, and it will show in your form. But over here, we want to use submit because we want the user to submit something. And then we close our form with a closing tag. So most of the tags in this name will have an opening tag like this one. It starts from here, a less than sign, and the element name is written, starts some attributes, ends with a greater than sign, and then we end the whole thing. We end the whole thing. A minute. And then we end the whole thing with a closing tag, and the closing tag basically has a less than and a greater than, but this time it has a backslash attached to the less than, a backslash. So now that we have our basic form outline, let us give it some styling. So before we begin with the styling, we first need to create our index.css file. Now you can name it anyhow you want. You can name it form.css, anything. Just make sure that the extension is the extension that matters. The dot. If you have a Word document, okay, you realize that the extension is mostly .doc or .docx. If you have a PowerPoint presentation, slides prepared, you realize that the extension is .ppt. So similarly, if you have an HTML file, the extension is .html. If you have a CSS file, the extension is .css. So it's the extension that matters. So in the same vein, if you have a JavaScript file, what do you think the extension will be? It's going to be .js, okay, .js, .javascript. So now we have created our index.css file, which you can see here, and we have given it an initial styling. So this over here is body. Now body is a tag on its own. When you go back here, you realize that this is body. This is a tag, body, opening tag, closing tag. So body is a tag on its own. And this particular body tag is more like a space. It's like a rectangle, a box. Okay. And we are saying that this box in our browser window should not have any margin. Now, when we say margin, if you remember back in SHS or JHS, when you used to write exams, I think in the university they also do it. They'll tell you that do not write in either sides of the margin. So that space that they've left over there on your left hand side or on your right hand side that they say you shouldn't write in either sides of the margin. That's the margin. So it's basically the same concept when it comes to web applications, Windows, your browser. So we are saying that do not leave any space on the left, do not leave any space at the top, do not leave any space on the right, or do not leave any space below. So our margin is 0 pixels. Now pixels is just a unit of measure. Take pixels to be a unit of measure. Like how we have centimeters, millimeters, kilometers. Pixels is the unit of measure mostly used in the browser. So yes, so we have our index.html, but before the sorry index.css, but before the index.css file can function properly and then show in our HTML and show in the HTML, we have to import it. Now, this is the import statement that we use. So we are linking the link over here. We are linking our index.html to our index.css. So link. Now, relation or how they are related is that it is a style sheet that we are linking. And each ref is telling us the location of that particular style sheet, which is the index.css. So each ref is equal to you specify the file path. So if the index.css were to be in a folder, we would have written the whole file path over here in the href, and that's how come we would have gotten it to work. So we'll move on. Now, at this stage, we are going to give our form an initial CSS styling. We're going to give it an initial styling. Now, if you remember, I told you that we gave the class, the form, a class name form because we wanted to use it in our CSS styling. So here we are. If you give it a class name, so class equals form, to be able to get access to that particular HTML element, you need to specify the class name with a dot. So dot form, then you start with your CSS. Now in CSS, before you write any styling or give any styling to your element, you need to start with a curly braces, and then you end with another curly braces, and then you write your styling inside. Now over here you can see a style called display. So we have the style attribute, and then we have the name or the type or how we want it to be like. So the attribute here is display. Now display basically talks about how we want our elements to show in the form, or the form elements to show. We are saying display is flex. So flex allows us to show our elements in various ways. So it can be horizontal, it can be vertical. And if it's vertical, if we are showing from top to down, we call the flex direction to be column. If it were to be horizontal, we would have used row. But because we want it to be aligned vertically, so if you remember from our initial form, it was actually aligned horizontally, as you can see here. Name, enter your name, email, it's horizontal. But we don't want it to be that way. We want it to be aligned vertically. That's how come we use flex direction to be column, so that you can get it in that particular manner. And we want the height of our form, this whole form, the one with the yellow background, we want the height of that form to be 300 px. Now you can see that that's 300 pixels. As I said earlier, pixels is like a unit of measure. If you think it's too small, you can add some more values. So 350 pixels, 400 pixels, and so on and so forth. Now, when we talk about the width, which is from this side to this side, this is the width, and this is the height. We want it to be 250 pixels. I want the background color to be orange. So as you can see, the background color is orange already. But this is not nice. If you're a front-end developer, we've spoken about front-end development, you cannot present something like this to a customer or a client that, oh, this is what I've built. It's a sign-up form. Take it and give me my money. They'll slap you, honestly. So you need to add some more styling. Now let's move on. And so because of that, we add, want to bring the form element a little bit away from the window, our browser window. And so this time around, we'll give it a margin left. So if you remember, I told you that margin is basically the space that we leave. Margin is basically the space that we leave um, from our experience in SHS in the university when we're writing exams, the space that we leave between our handwriting, where we are writing, and where we shouldn't write anything. So in this sense, we are saying that from the from the left-hand side of the browser window to our form element, please leave a margin of 200 px. And from the top of the browser window to our form, please leave another margin of 100 px. And this is what we have right now. Now let's add some more styling. This time we are going to add styling to the label element. If you remember, the label element are the name and then the email. They are the labels. So over here we call our form elements. You can see that we are not using the class. If we're using class, we would have used dots form, but we are not using class. We are calling the form element. So we call the form element and we say that, look, there is this particular element in the form element, inside the form element, called label. Okay, and I want you to point to that label. So this arrow points to the label because we want to be specific. Now if you want to see that, let me show you from the onset. So you realize that this is the form element, form from here to here, and this label element is in the form element, this big bracket here. The label element is in it. So the label can be found in the form element. And so the label element becomes more or less like another property of the form element. Let me put it that way. And so we are saying that when you touch the form element, go into it, you're going to find the label element. Now apply these stylings to the label element. And the stylings are a margin of this size. Now, this particular arrangement has a meaning. You realize that over here we used margin left, margin top, and in the body we had a margin, but it was just 0 px. Now for here we are saying that when you meet a label, give it a margin at the top of 15 pixels. At the top, this is the first one is for the top. For the at the right hand side, give it a margin of 5 pixels, the right hand side. At the bottom, give it a margin of 0 pixels. Now give it no margin. Now the left hand side, give it a margin of 5 pixels. So you realize that the name here has some space in between from the name itself to the form element. And then from here, from the name to the input element, we didn't give it any margin. But then from the name to the top of the form element, we give a margin of 15 pixels. So you can see that there's actually some substantial amount of space in between them. So that's the effect that it has. And then we gave it a padding of 2 pixels. Now what padding does is that if you have a label element, it's like a box on its own. So we are saying that the name label should be shifted a little bit away from the edges of the box. So padding gives the element in the padding gives the attribute in the element some space from the original, from the container of the attributes. Let me put it that way, from the container of the attribute. That's what padding does. And then we have the font size. So the font size is larger. So you can see that this name is bigger than the enter your name, and the email is also bigger than the enter your email or the submit. And the font weight, yeah, we've made it a little bit bigger. So you could have made it bold, or we could have increased the size of the font weight, and it would have been the same thing. And then we move on to styling the input element. So similarly, we give some margin to the input element from the top, right, bottom, and then the left. Then give it a height of 20 px. So you realize that the input element over here has a bigger height. The height is bigger as compared to the one here. And it's because of the height styling that you give to it. Sorry. And you can also see that the width of the input element is 90%. Now, this is saying that the input element should occupy 90% of the form element. Let's remember that the input element can be found in the form. That's how come when we wanted to access the input element, really sorry about that. That's how come when we wanted to access the input element, we said in the form element, reach out, the greater than sign is saying reach out to the input element. Just a second, let me take water. And so when you look at the input element on your right, as you can see here, you realize that there is some space from the end of the input element to the form element. And the same thing is here because we are not occupying the full length like we can see over here. As you can see, these input elements are occupying the full length of the form. But over here, we specify that it should only occupy 90% of it, of the width of the form. And that's what it's doing. Finally, we add some style to the button element. So similarly, we are saying that the button should have a padding of 5 px, which is saying that from the text submit to the box there. So with the button, you can already see the effect of the padding. From the text submit to the container of the button, there should be some space of 5 px. You see, there should be some space of 5 px. And you're also saying that it should have a margin of 50 px from the top, 35 px from the right, 0 from the bottom, and 35 from the left. That's how come we can see that the button element we have over here is not the same thing over here, because we've added some padding and then some margin. But once again, this is just the final structure of our form. This is how we want our form to look like. But you know, there are several front-end developers out there, and if you want your work to stand out, you can't just present something like this to your clients, because somebody else has done something better, and they'll definitely give you a run for your money. And so we'd like to add some additional styling. So let us add some more styling to make it better and enhance our user experience. So I'm just going to highlight the styling that we've added and then explain to you just one or two things, then we'll move on. So we can see that we have added some additional styling to form. So the form element itself, we have given it a border radius. When we say border radius, it means that we are making the edges a little bit curved. Okay, border radius is that making the edges of the form a little bit curved. We have given it a background color. This looks more like a cyan background color, but it's a little bit it has a little bit of additional color into it, and we've given it a background image. So we are saying that the form should have a background image, meaning that behind the input element, behind the labels, there should be something like an image. And it's not just an image, it's a blend of colors that we are showing over there. And we use the linear gradient attribute to do that, and linear gradient property, sorry. And then we have additional styling to label. Now, for the label, we are only saying that the color should be blue. So the name and then the email should be colored blue. That's what we are saying. And we have additional styling to input. So for the input, we want to have a background color of white, pure white. We want it to have a padding of 2 px. So when we say padding, it means that the text that we have written, maybe enter your name, enter your email, blah, 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 should be a little bit away from the box itself. They want to give it a border color. This is not border radius, border color of 1 px solid blue. And then we give some additional styling to the button element. The button element, we give it some border radius. So border radius 50 px. It means that we are making it round. Okay, we are making our button round, or we are making the edges curved. We want to give it a font size of medium, and they want to give it the color red, and then a background color of also closer to cyan. So at this juncture, we have added some additional styling to our form because we want it to be nice and be better than anybody else could ever do. So let us look at the final product. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a final form. Our sign up form is ready now, and we can actually host it just as it is. But we want to add some JavaScript. As I was saying, we want to add some JavaScript to our form. Why do you want to add JavaScript? So that the form can be interactive, so that it can be responsive, so that when people use it, they can feel happy with the work that you have done. Let me put it that way. And so all that I want to do is that when the person enters their name and then their email or something, and they do not enter their name and they do not enter the email, we want to display something here. Okay, where's my mouse? I want to display something here, a notification, a message to tell them that, oh, you forgot to enter your name, or oh, you forgot to enter your email. And so you have to do that before we can give you access. And to do that, to display something here, we need to add the JavaScript code. Okay, now the JavaScript code is going to make use what we call
query selector. Now, query selector is a way of getting access to
your browser, the DOM. We call it the DOM in your browser. So it's like manipulating the elements in the browser. So we have, first of all, in JavaScript, this is not detailed JavaScript. First of all, in JavaScript, we can actually initialize what we call sorry for the delay. We can initialize what we call variables. Okay, so a variable is actually more like a container, and it allows you to put whatever item or element you want to put into it. So in JavaScript, we initialize our variable by using const. So const means that this is a constant. So constant message box is equal to. So what we have done now, HTML that we have written is known as a document, but it goes to the web. So we want to get the document. So document.query selector. As I said, the query selector gives you access to the DOM. But what we want to get is an element called span. Now we've not added the span element yet. We'll add this data in our latter codes. And then once again, we want to get a button. And then so we initialize another variable and we name it document.query selector. But this time around, we are not calling the button element. We're actually calling the ID dot form button dot form button. We're actually calling the ID. And the same thing for name text and password. So name text is where you type your name, password text. This is password text, but then in our work, it's email. Now, this is because we actually wanted to diversify or bring some diversity in the whole thing by showing you that there's another input type called password. So this password test, because when we deploy the work, we made it a password, not an email. But let's assume it's an email. It's the same approach and it's the same functionality. And in this case, we are going to call, you remember we've initialized a button over here, a button element, and then we've given it the name button, btn. So we are going to call this btn, and we are going to add an event listener. When we say an event listener, it means that, for instance, when you're using your computer, and then you take your mouse, when you pass your mouse over a particular folder on your computer, for some computers, it's likely that that particular folder is going to be highlighted, or it's going to pop up, or there's going to be something to show that your mouse is on that folder, or your mouse is performing a particular action. When you click on it, it will open. So those are event listeners. So we want to add an event listener to our button element. So the event listener that I want to add is click. Now, why are we adding click? Because when the user inputs their name and they input their password or their email, sorry, when the user inputs their name and they input their password or their emails, we are going to click on the submit button so that we can actually send a feedback to wherever we want the feedback to go to. Now, we will first want to validate. We first want to validate the whole process. You can see this event dot prevent default this over here dot prevent default, because the default action of a form is to submit. So whenever you click on a form, whenever you click on submit, it's definitely going to submit the details that you have into something, a database or anywhere, but we don't have anything of that sort. So we want to prevent that action from happening. That's how can we have the prevent default. So we have a validation. So we want to construct some things or write some codes to validate the form. Now, validation in the sense that if the user enters a particular if the user enters the name and they forget to enter the password, we don't want to allow them to enter, or we don't want to allow them to submit. But if they enter the password and they forget the name, that one we don't want to allow them to submit. And this is how it goes. So it's an if statement, an if statement. So if, just as I said, if. So coding is not really difficult, as maybe you might have heard, because if it is raining, then take an umbrella. If it is not, what do? You can leave the umbrella at home. So if the name text, you realize the name text over here, we are calling the dot name input. If the name text dot value, we are saying that the value in the name text is an input element, is equal to, this equal to is equal to this empty strings. So this is actually supposed to be a string. There's supposed to be something inside, but I realize that it's empty. Or these two bars means or the password text or the password input field is also empty. And this is what we want to do. The password input field is also empty. Then we want to, for the message box, which is the span element that will be showing you, we want to add a class list known as error. Now, let me show you right away where the class list is. So you can see that we need the button element in our form. We need the button element. We have the span element. Now, this span element has nothing here. It's that an H1 element or any other element that you know, but it's called span because it also displays text. It has nothing here because what we want to put there is in the JavaScript code. And this particular styling, this is the styling. We have two styles for the span element. So if the user actually passes our validation, we want to show this particular style, the success style. If the user fails to pass our validation, we want to show the error styling. And so let's go back to our code. So realize that we said if both of these, the name text and then the input text are empty, then add this message class list dot add the error style, the error styling, which is here. So for the error styling, we are saying that you should give it this margin to align text at the center. The background color is RGB. Now RGB is red, green, blue, and then this is the A at the end is opacity. So we do not want it to be too red. We want it to the background to be a little bit light so that we can see the form itself, just some styling. And so you realize that the red value is 256 and the red is 000. So it means that this is actually red. The background color is red because the rest of the colors have zero values. The opacity is 0.7. Now, 1 means that it's very opaque. When we say opaque, you cannot see through. And 0 means that you can't see it at all. So somewhere between 0 and 1, it's okay to make your form nicer. And they want you to have this font weight and then the font size and then the color white. Now you realize that if it is successful to, this is the styling that we want to use for the span element. And so this is what is illustrated here. So we want to add this particular class list error, which we have created over there already. And we also want to add this message that please fill out all fields. Else, they will take our message box again, dot class list dot add success. So success is the success styling that we did over there. And then we want to add a text that user is welcome. So you are welcome. Now, what is over here is that what we've done here is that we are taking the name of the user, the name text, the name that the user entered in the mail. That's what we are taking over here. And then we want to display it. So maybe you are welcome, Kojo, you are welcome, Abana, if they entered Abana, you are welcome, Kwesi. Yeah, that's what we want to do. And then we'll go back to document or query selector, and then we change the font, we change the background color to this. So once the user clicks on submit, we want to change the background color of the form. That is if it is successful. If it is not, we just have to show them an error. But if it is successful, we want to change the background color of the form. So style.background, and then name text the value. We want to display an empty input field. So it means that whatever they have typed there should go away. If they've typed a password, it should also go away. And then we want to set timeout. We want to give some time so that when the message after that particular time exceeds, we want to reset the whole thing, it's the factory reset the form color and everything back to normal. So that's how can we use this particular function, the set timeout method in JavaScript. And we are saying that message box dot remove. So message box is what we have here. That's our span element. I want to move the display, whatever will show, whether it's an error or it's a welcome, or we want to show the welcome message. Yes, we want to remove the welcome message. So message box dot remove, and then document or query selector form dot style dot background. Then we change the background to normal. But after how many seconds do you want that to happen? That is what we have to specify in the set timeout. We want that to happen in 10,000 seconds. So 10,000 seconds, 10,000 means 10 seconds. If you have 1,000, it means 1 second. If you have 2,000, it means 2 seconds. If you have 500, it means 0.5 seconds, and in that order. Yes, so this is all that we want our form to do. This is the functionality behind the form using our index.js file, which is the JavaScript file. So now that we are done, I think the next thing to do is to host our form on Firebase.
Now you
Now you
realize
realize
that
that
there are
there are
countless
countless
people
people
or a
or
lot
a
of
lot of
us
us
who
who
normally
normally
write some
write some
codes on our
codes on our
laptops. It
laptops.
can
It
be
can be
HTML, it can
HTML,
be
it can be
CSS or
CSS or
anything of the
anything of the
sort.
sort.
And we are
And
the
we are the
only
only
people who
people
see
who
the
see the
codes on our
codes on our
laptops.
laptops.
Nobody else
Nobody
sees
else
it.
sees it.
Our friends
Our
do not
friends do
see
not
it
see
unless
it
of
unless,
course, they
of course,
come
they
to
come to
visit
visit
us
us
or we show
or we
it
show
to
it
them.
to them.
Or
Or
we
you
want
want
to
to
do
do
guy
guy
guy,
guy,
we'll go
or
and
go and
show it to
show
your
to a
friend that
friend that,
Charlie,
Charlie,
look at
look
what
at what
I've
I've
built.
built.
Use
Those
it
things.
or
Or we
send
send
screenshots
screenshots
or
or
whatever.
whatever.
But
But
we want
we
to be
want to be
able to
able to
send it
send
to
it
the
into the
cloud,
cloud,
you know,
you know,
put it
put it
on the
on the
internet,
internet.
like
Like
how we
how we
can go
can go
online,
online,
search for a
search for a
link,
link, and then we'll
and
go and look
what's
at what's
happening.
happening.
We
We
want
want
to
to
put
put
it
it
on
on
the
the
internet
internet
so
so
that
that
we
we
can
can
show
show
it
it
to
to
those
those
friends.
friends. We
You can
can
send
send
the
just the
link to
link to
them
the
so
friends.
they
So when
click
they
on it,
click on it,
they can
they
see
can
what
see
you
what
have
you have
done.
done.
Or
Or
maybe
maybe
you have
you have
built
built
something that you
something that
think
you think
somebody will
somebody will
need,
need,
and so you
and
want
so
the
you want the
person to see
person to
that you
see that
can
you
do
can
it.
do it.
So
So
you
you
post it
host it on
online,
online
the
on the
internet.
internet.
You send
You
the
send the
person the
person the
link, and you
link
tell
and you
them
tell
to
them
look
to
at
look
your
at
work
your work
so
so
that
that
they
they
can give
can
you
give
a
you a
contract and
contract
then you
and then
get
you
some
get
more
some
money.
more money.
So
So
that's the
that's
whole
the whole
idea of
idea of
hosting the
hosting
work
the work
on
on
Firebase.
Firebase.
So let's
So
move
let's
on.
move on.
Now to
Now,
host
to
on
host on
Firebase,
Firebase,
you
you
first
first
need
need to
to type
type
firebase.google.com, or
firebase.google.com,
you
or you
can go
can
to
go to
firebase.com
firebase.com
to
to
send you
send you
here.
here.
You see
You
this
see this
arrow
arrow
here.
here.
Once you get
Once you
here,
get
just
here,
click
just
on
click on
go to
go to
console.
console.
Okay.
Okay.
When you click
When you
on
click
go to
on go to
console,
console,
send
to
you
send you
here.
here.
These are a
This are
list
a
of
list of
projects
projects
that
that
people have
people
built.
have
If
built.
you've
If
not
you've
built
not
any
built any
project, you don't
project, you
see
don't see
anything
anything
here.
here.
But
But
so
so
if you
if
build
you've built
projects, you
projects,
see
you
them
see
here.
them here.
So you
So
go
you
to
go to
add
add
project.
project.
Click on
Click on
add
add
project.
project.
Click
When you
on
click
add
on add
project
project,
to bring
to
you to
bring
a
you to a
new
new
screen.
screen.
Here you
Here
type the
you
name
type
of
the name of your
any
project,
name
any
that you
name that
want.
you
You
want. So
can
you
type
can type
yellow
yellow code
or
or
yellow
yellow code
sign up
sign up
form
form
or
or
whatever name.
whatever name that you want.
Afterwards,
Afterwards,
go
you go
to
to
enable
enable
Google
Google
Analytics.
Analytics for the project, which
Yes.
is here.
Click
You
on
click
it
on it
to
to
enable.
enable,
Then you
and then
click
you
on
click on
continue.
continue.
When you
Now, when
click
you
on
click on
continue,
continue,
you have
you
to
have to
configure the
configure the
Google
Google
Analytics. It's
Analytics. It's
nothing
nothing
difficult. You
difficult. You
just click
just
on
click on
default
default
account for
account for
Firebase.
Firebase.
This thing
This
will
thing will
turn
turn
blue,
blue,
the
the
create
create
project.
project.
Click
You
on it.
click on create project,
And
and
boom,
boom,
the
the
project is
project is
ready.
ready.
Boom, boom,
Boom,
boom,
boom,
the
boom,
project is
project
ready.
is
It's
ready.
as
It's as
easy as
easy as
ABC.
ABCD.
So
So,
creating a
creating a
project
project
on
on
the
the
Cloudflare
Cloudflare
store or
store on a
Cloudflare
cloud
platform
platform
like
like
Firebase
Firebase
is
is
not a
not a
hectic
hectic
or
or
tedious
tedious
task.
task.
You just
You
need
just
to
need to go
go
through
through
a few processes.
novices can
Novices
do it,
can do it,
beginners can
beginners
do
can do it,
it, experts can
experts
do it
can do it,
while
even
they are
while they are
asleep.
asleep. And
So
so
it's not
it's not
difficult at
difficult at
all.
all.
But
But
if you
if
are
you are
finding it
finding it
difficult so
difficult so
far, please,
far,
if you're
please,
on
if you're on
YouTube or
YouTube
you're
or
on
you're
the
on the
meeting and
meeting and
finding it
finding it
difficult
difficult
so
so
far,
far,
just
just
relax,
relax,
okay?
okay?
At the
At
end
the
of the
end of the
session, we have
session, we
some
have some
special
special
package for
package for
everybody
everybody
who is
who is
here. We
here.
have
We
some
have some
beautiful
beautiful
package
package
for
for
you
you
guys.
guys.
Just
So just
relax. We
relax.
have
We have
something coming.
something coming.
Now,
Now,
once the
once the
project is
project is
created,
created,
you
you
can go
can
to
go to
continue
continue
over
over
here.
here.
You can
You
click
can
on
click on
continue.
continue here,
Then
and
to
then to
send you
send you to
your
your
interface
interface
or
or
your
your
dashboard.
dashboard, or let me say it that way.
So
So
over
over
here,
here,
look at where
look at
the
where the
arrow
arrow
is.
is.
Click on
Click on
hosting.
hosting.
When you
When you
click on
click on
hosting,
hosting,
it will
it will
send you
send
to
you
this
to this
place,
place,
the
the
hosting
hosting
dashboard
dashboard
or the
or the
hosting
hosting
interface
interface
or the
or the
hosting
hosting
console,
console. Yes, mostly
commonly known
commonly
as
known
the
as the
hosting
hosting
console.
console.
When you
When
get
you
here, you
get here,
click
you
on
click
Get
on Get
Started.
Started.
When you click
When you
on
click
Get
on Get
Started,
Started,
it also
it will
open
also
up
open up,
another
another
list of
list of
steps that you
steps
should
that you should
follow.
follow.
It's
So it's
basically
basically
teaching you
teaching you what to do. Okay, so you come here and then you click on next. This is the first step. You have to install Firebase CLI. Now, to be able to do something like this, you need what we call the Node Package Manager (NPM). And to be able to get NPM, you need to install Node. But then, as I said, if you are finding it, if you don't have to understand what's going on, just know that these are the process to carry out. As I said, we have some special package for everybody at the end of the seminar, at the end of the webinar. And so these things are not really things that you should try to wrap your head around. Just know that these are the processes involved. And so the first thing you do is that you do npm install manage Firebase tools. So you are installing the tools for Firebase that are needed to host your application. And then the second step is that you log in to your mail. Now, one thing you should know is that before you can get access to all this, you need to have a Gmail and Google Mail accounts. That's all that you need. So you log into your mail using Firebase Login, and then you do Firebase init. Now, all of this should be done in your code editor, the VS Code, or in your command prompt inside the directory of the folder where the file is. All of this should be done over there. And then you go to the last step, which is Firebase deploy. Now at this stage, we are just sending everything, your work, to the online platform. Because when you click on Firebase deploy, they're going to generate a link for you that you can show to your friends and your clients, and then show them the work that you've done. And once you are done, you just click on continue to console, and here you are. This is your hosting dashboard. Nothing, we have nothing to show right now because, well, you just created a project anyway. So you don't need to be fancy. So they are telling you that they are waiting for your first release. Now we have gone through the processes online, they have shown us. So let's enter our text editor and do it ourselves. To realize that over here, step one, npm install manage G Firebase tools. I have done it here. So once I click on enter, then all this shows up, yeah, this fancy stuff. Then I go to Firebase Login. This is Firebase Login. And now they are telling me that you are already logged in as this with this Gmail account. If you are not already logged in, they will send you to your browser so that you go and log in. Once you are done, then you do Firebase init. So when you do Firebase init, then all these camps, you undergo a series of processes. You choose some yes, you choose some no somewhere. You select some projects to go with. Just a list of simple and short processes for you to get started. And once that is done, you realize that they will tell you your Firebase initialization is complete. Firebase initialization is complete. Now, at this juncture, you can go ahead and deploy. You can go ahead and deploy your app to the internet by typing Firebase deploy, Firebase deploy, Firebase deploy, Firebase deploy. We are deploying. Are you ready? So Firebase deploy so that you get your app onto the internet. You show it to your friends, and then they can also show it to their friends, and they'll be like, "Hey, my friend has done this, Charlie. The guy is good. Let's give him this to do. Let's give him this to do, so that I can make some small coins out of it." When I click on Firebase deploy, as I said earlier, a link will be generated for you. Now, look here, hosting URL, okay, https yellowcode signup.web.app, yellowcode signup.web.app. Now, this is the link that was generated. This is the link that was generated for our application. Now, this link is going to be sent to us on our WhatsApp platform, right now, and we are all supposed to test it out. Okay, if you are using your phone on the network, please don't go and test it out now. Wait. But if you are on your laptop, on Google Meet, if you are using your laptop, then you can use your phone to test out the network. Okay, so it will be sent to you on the platform right now. Okay, so that if you are not on the network with your phone, you can test it out and see the work that we have both done. This build was by the both of us. You were here, we did it in real time, we hosted, and now the link is ready. So it will be sent to the platforms right now. Yes, it's coming. It's coming, please. The link is coming in. Okay, yeah. Okay, so the link is on our WhatsApp platform now. If you're on WhatsApp, please, if you're on the network and you are using your phone, don't bother to go on WhatsApp to go and access it. But if you are using your laptop, then you can. Okay. So yeah, the links are on our platform. So you can click on them and try it out. This is what we built together. Okay, I built it with you. I didn't build it alone. I built it with you. So click on the link and try it out yourself. First of all, you can enter your name and don't enter any password, okay? And then click on submit and see what happens. And click on the submit button and see what happens. And then afterwards, go and enter your password. Okay, when you enter your password, then you click on submit again. And then realize that boom, the thing worked. Okay? So it's as easy as ABCD. Very easy. Okay, now that we are done building our app, and then we have tested it. So let us test our app, and it's on the WhatsApp platform. Then the next question will be at this particular stage. So what's next after this webinar? I mean, that's going to be the major question. Now we've learned about front end, we've learned about back end. Now we know what full stack is. We know the habits to use, getting to know platforms you can use. We've learned a whole lot so far on this webinar, and I'd like to thank the speakers for their wonderful work so far. But your major question will be, so what next after this webinar? You don't have to worry at all, okay? Now, this webinar is actually part of a series of activities that the Yellow Coders Club is planning to put in place. And one of these is Yellow Me, okay? Now, Yellow Me is basically a 2 weeks result-oriented module that we are putting in place beginning on the 15th of this month to get you started from a novice or beginner in web development to building your dream project or landing your first client. That's if you want to be a freelancer. And it is also to get you out of the tutorial loop. Now, we've realized there are several people who have reached out to us that they've been studying HTML and CSS, which is actually web development based, and a few are adding JavaScript, but they developed the passion like a year or two ago, and they are still not making progress. I mean, if somebody tells you that they are learning HTML and CSS, and you ask them, okay, what projects have they done? They hardly find anything to show you, and some of them do not really have anything hosted either that they can show you that, oh, we have built this and it's here. They share the link with you to look it up. So for those of us, some of us who are in high school who just completed SHS and are on the webinar, those of us who are not really computer science students but want to learn this coding stuff, and those of us who are also working and we do not really belong, or we do not find ourselves in this computer field but want to learn, this is for you. The Yellow Me module is for you. Get involved. It's just 2 weeks. We get you out of the tutorial loop, and we also offer you a great online community where you receive help and also polish your skill by helping others. So I think we were told that we can make use of channels like YouTube, can make use of platforms like Udemy and Pluralsight, Coursera, and all that. But one of the disadvantages of those platforms that we have realized is that once you download the videos, it's just you and your God. Okay. Now you realize that people have gigabytes of tutorial videos on their laptops, and yet they are not making any progress. Now these are obvious. I mean, these are there because they do not really have the guidelines. They don't have anybody to guide them. They don't have a community where they can share ideas, they can learn from others, and they can also contribute into helping others. And this is what we want to eradicate. We want to give you that opportunity to learn, polish yourself, give help to others, and receive help, and also to be guided in your study. Okay. So we have 2 weeks, as you said, week 1 and week 2. Now, in the first week, okay, of this particular module, what you're going to do is that you're going to dedicate it mainly to tutorials in HTML and CSS. It's going to be through live coding sessions. We are not going to have a session like this on Google Meet, or we are not going to have a session on Zoom or YouTube, unless, of course, it becomes necessary. But we are going to work in our text editors. So there's this feature in Visual Studio Code called Live Share. And that's what the tutors are going to use. Now, Live Share enables the tutors or the participants to collaborate on the network. You can see me in your IDE, and I can also see you in my IDE. If I type, you can see me type. If you type, I can see you type. If you type, I can see you type. We can share ideas. There's a whiteboard. There are a lot of features in there that are useful for teaching and learning. And you see what is going on. It's live. That's why we call it a live coding session in HTML and CSS. Now, that aside, we're also going to devote a whole day. Now, this is all part of the Yellow Me model. We're going to devote a whole day, and then we'll allocate that whole day to having a coding mentorship session. We are not going to code, we're just going to talk, ask questions, find out answers from knowledgeable personalities. And then we're also going to we're going to let We are going to educate the participants, people who get involved in the Yellow Me model, on how to have engagement on platforms like GitHub and Slack. I believe during the presentations, we had this platform, GitHub and Slack. How do you use them? Where are they? How do you get started? All that. So we're going to cover everything. Now, in week two is where the magic starts. Okay, week two is where the magic starts. Now, in week two, we are actually going to build something. We are going to build a personal portfolio website. Now, when I say a personal portfolio website, I mean you're going to build something, a website that talks about you, what you do, your strength, your I mean everything about you. Whatever you want to put there, it's you for you. Okay, that's a personal portfolio website. And you're not just going to build and have it on your PC and whenever you want to show it to friends, you carry your PC to them and show it to them like that. You're actually going to host the website on Firebase and then you can add that link to your profiles. If you're LinkedIn, you can add a link to LinkedIn. You can add it to your WhatsApp description or your name. You can make it your name on WhatsApp. You can use it for anything that you want because it's a link. And even while you're asleep, somebody can click on the link and view the things you have written about yourself. And that's what makes it more fun when you have done something and it's out there and people are looking at it. Now, even through that, sorry, sorry, even through that, you are going to be able to land yourself a client, somebody who likes what you have done and wants a similar thing. And you are going to build for that client too, and you are going to make something out of it. So once you have a portfolio website and somebody wants something similar, all that you do is just to change a few things to suit the what the person wants, and you can make some 800 CDs, 1K, 1.5K, depending on how much effort you put into building the site for the person. So you may ask, so is this all going to be free? Well, I'm sorry, but it's not going to be free. The webinar is actually free, but these are models and courses that we are putting effort in. We are going to put work in to make sure that you move out of of the tutorial loop, that you get something working, that something that you can be proud of. You understand? Something you can show to your friends, something you can show to other people that this is what I have done and this is what I can do. And so I think you should come to me and I'll do some for you, and then you just pay something small and I'm going. So all that I've spoken about, I mean, all of these just for 250 CDs. I mean, 250 CDs is peanuts to a lot of people, especially considering the amount of value we are trying to give to all those who will be part of the Yellow Me model. It's going to be exciting, educative, and it's going to be productive. And so, but we have a discount, okay? You have a discount. If you're here on the webinar, either YouTube or Google Meet, and you want to register, so we are putting in place a registration form to be sent onto the platform an hour or two after this meeting. We are sending the registration form onto the platform an hour or two that you can use to register for this particular model. And we are giving you from now to the 13th of this month a discount of 20%. So that means you are paying what? Just 200 CDs, just 200 CDs to earn all of this, just 200 CDs. 2 weeks result oriented. You get to build something, you get to share ideas with others, you get to learn, you get to move out of the tutorial loop, you get to do something. You understand? For just 200 Ghana cedis, I mean, who wouldn't invest in themselves? If you see it as an investment, you are definitely going to make something out of it. If not, then I think you think, I'm sure you think, oh, this is too expensive and I don't have money. Well, you have to look at it as an investment. So it depends. If you look at it as an investment, then you know what you're about yourself. But if not, then I don't know what's happening. So, but then there are also other streams of languages and other services that will be given out as well. So, as we said earlier, the target of Yellow Code is to equip 200 people by the end of the month, 200 people with programming skills and these skills in the tech space so that they do not just know them, but they know how to work with them. That's what we are looking at. We're looking at result oriented stuff. Okay, that's what we want in with respect to Hello Code. Now you can also learn the following. You can learn Python programming. You can, and in the Python programming session too, it's going to be a similar thing. You're going to enjoy being tutored with others or at your own pace. As for these ones, it's going to be at your own pace if you want. But for the yellow me, you are going to do it from a particular time, start date to a particular end date. Now, at the end of it, if you want it to be done for yourself, then it means that you have to reach another form of negotiation, which the price may go up a little. But once you know what you are investing into, then I don't think that will be a problem for you. And also, you enjoy an online community platform where you get to receive help from others, share ideas, and also polish your skills by giving help to other people. Now, you know that you get to understand things better when you teach others, right? So that's what we want to promote on our online platforms or online communities. That's what we want to promote. And then you get to build projects. That's the biggest focus of Yellow Code Club. That we want you to get started, build something, post it there, show it to somebody, get recommended, start making something. You can be a freelancer, you can have a job, and then this will be a side hustle. Or maybe you want to land a company, a job with a company or something in this particular space. This can be a start point for you. So that's the main focus of Yellow Coders Club. And so you can also go in for JavaScript programming. JavaScript programming offers the same advantages, the same sweetness like the Python programming, and similar to the Yellow Me. And we also have the no code areas. Now, the no code areas are graphic design and video editing. So, graphic design and video editing basically. Um, well, maybe you may think these particular fields do not involve code, so they may be easier. Well, I think you get to know what it entails when you enroll in these particular programs with the Yellow Code Club. Now, if you realize the flyers that we use for our on the pages, on our WhatsApp pages, on our status and all that, they're all made here in Yellow Code Club. We didn't outsource them from anywhere. The form that we built was built here. Everything is done within the organization. We do not outsource things from outside, and so we know what we are doing and we know what we are about. And there's no way we are going to blow your money or waste your money or anything if you invest in yourself with us. And once again, this goes for just 250, whether Python, JavaScript, graphic design, or video editing. And we're also giving a discount but this extends to 15th. So by the 15th of this month, if you want to enroll in any of these, just register when the link is out. Register, we'll send you a mail, and then we'll give you the procedures to follow to make payment. It's as easy as that, as easy as ABCD. And then you get rolling. If you're able to do this by the end of the month, it can be your projection. By the end of the month, you want to be able to be proficient in this, do this, do that, and we have it all available for you. Okay. So this is all that we have for you today. And at this juncture, we would like to show our sincerest appreciation to everybody that's on the network. We want to show our appreciation to all of us here, all of us here, to the people who came online, to come and talk to us. We'd like to thank Nana Kweku Anikwabe, our front end developer speaker. We'd like to thank Mr. Pius Jamana, who spoke about backend development. We'd like to thank Ms. Esther Ajaro Boateng, who spoke about why there's the need for females to be involved in some of these things. You understand? And then we'd like to thank
Mr.
Mr.
Mouse,
Mouse
Odazi,
Odazi,
who gave
who gave
us
us the
habits
habits
that we
that we
need
need
to
to
make
make
progress,
progress, to put, to
shoot
shoot
up
up
from where
from
we
where we
are.
are.
He
And
also
you
showed
also
us
showed
some
us some
platforms that we
platforms that
can
we
use.
can use.
And
And
finally,
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 we like
we'd
to
like to
thank
thank
all of
all
you
of
who
you
are
who are
here
here
present
present
today.
today.
Some who will
Some
be
who will be
viewing
viewing
another
another
time,
time,
some who will
some
be
who will be
viewing
viewing
tomorrow, the
tomorrow,
day
the day
after
after
tomorrow,
tomorrow,
2 days
2 days
from
from
now.
now.
Whenever you'll
Whenever
be
you'll be
viewing,
viewing,
okay,
okay,
we'd like
we'd
to
like to
thank you
thank
for
you for
viewing.
viewing.
And if
And
you
if you
really
really
liked
liked
this,
this, if
if
you
you
really
really
enjoyed
enjoyed
it,
this,
so if you
learned
really
a
learned
lot,
a lot,
just
just
click on
click
the
on the
like
like
button
button
and click
and
on the
click on the
subscribe
subscribe
button
button
as
as
well
well
if
if
you're
you're
on
on
YouTube.
YouTube.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much
very
for your
much for your
time,
time,
and we'd
and
like
we'd
to
like to
end here.
end
But if
here.
there
But
are
if
any
there are any
questions,
questions,
there are
if
any
there are any
questions
questions
before we
before we
close?
close,
There are
if
any
there are any
questions.
questions, please.
If you're on
If you're on
YouTube and you
YouTube
have
and you
any
have any
question,
question,
kindly
kindly
type it
type it
in
in
the
the
kindly
kindly
type it in
type
the
it in the
comment
comment
section.
section
Hello.
and we'll,
Hello.
hello.
Yeah, my name is Michael, and I really enjoyed the program. Thank you for everything, and wish to meet you in your bootcamp.
Sure, sure, sure. We're
Sure.
also
We're also
looking
looking
forward to
forward to
meeting you.
meeting you, Michael.
It's been a
It's been a
pleasure
pleasure
having you on
having
the
you on the
network.
network.
Okay.
So the
So
form
the
will be
form will
out
be out
soon,
soon,
okay?
okay?
Are you on
Are
the
you on the
WhatsApp
WhatsApp
platform?
platform?
Hello,
Hello,
Michael.
Michael.
Yes, please.
Okay. So
Okay.
the
So
form
the
will be
form will
out
be out
soon
soon
and
and
before
before
evening.
evening.
So do
So do
well to
well to
register
register
for the
for the
course of
course
your
of your
choice.
choice.
And
And
then
then
before
before
evening or
evening or
tomorrow
tomorrow
morning,
morning, I think
feedback from
feedback
our
from our
technical lead.
technical lead.
Do
So do
well
well
to
to
check
check
out
out
for the
for
look
the
out for
look
the
out for the
form
form
and
and
register for
register
the
for the
course of
course
your
of your
choice. It
choice.
can
It
be
can be
Yellow
Yellow
Me, it
Me,
can
it
be
can be
JavaScript or
JavaScript or
Python,
Python,
or
or
it
it
can be
can be
video
video
editing or
editing or
graphic
graphic
designing.
designing.
And we'll
And
send
we'll
you an
send you an
email to
email
show
to
you
show
the
you the
details
details
how
on
you
how
can
you
go
can go
about it.
about it.
Okay.
Okay.
And
And
don't
don't
forget, this is
forget,
an
this is an
investment
investment
into
into
you. So
yourself. That's how
we
we
want
want
everybody to
everybody to
see it.
see it.
You
You
understand?
understand?
And we are
And we are
glad you are
glad you
seeing
are
it
seeing
that
it
way,
that way,
Michael.
Michael.
Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
very much.
Any more
Any more
questions,
questions,
please?
please?
Okay,
Okay,
so
so
I
I
think
think
Michael
Michael
wants
wants
us to
us to
share
share
the
the
PowerPoint
PowerPoint
and
and
the
the
video
video
on
on
Google
Google
Drive.
Drive.
Um,
Um,
or if
or
I'm
if
not
I'm not
mistaken, that's
mistaken,
what you're
that's what
trying
you're
to say,
trying to say,
right?
right?
Okay, a
Okay, a
question or
question
two
or two
before
before we
any
close. Any
questions on
questions on
YouTube?
YouTube?
Okay,
Okay,
thank you
thank you
guys for
guys
your
for your
time.
time. It's been a
Pleasure
pleasure
having you.
having you.
And don't
And don't
forget,
forget,
Yellow
Yellow
Code
Code
Club
Club
is here
is
for
here for
all of
all
you
of you
guys.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Mr. Fire, please.
After school. Yeah, it's fine. That's how you just go through it. Big man of or you can follow online.